hear ye! The Parliament of Geeks shall now come to order!
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the Parliament of Geeks, where we ask and answer one simple question. Be it weeb, or be it scrub. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have 1, 2, 3 good brothers of the Parliament. Ha 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 ha! We have our flamboyant flyer and living Wikipedia, good brother Flutter. We have Mr. 100,000 damage, good brother John. And the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadaria Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
Zadaria Enterprises would like to remind you all that you are now all you're all now a part of the Zadaria security forces. Because all of you did very well these past few days. You actually made a giant-ass corporation shit itself and walk itself back. Now continue to use this momentum. Let's get Origin, Uplay, and everything else off of fucking Steam as well. Come on, guys. Move, move, move. Chop, chop, chop. I'm not paying you to sit there. I'm not paying you at all. You've already been conscripted. Go!
But before, and of course, since you're back in here, John, it's a perfect opportunity to revive one of our traditions. So, ladies and gentlemen, please rise for our drinking anthem.
Oh, give me a second. I wasn't prepared for that one. Throwing me off my game here. Let's see. Is it over here? Where is my... Okay, where is... Oh, it's right there. Duh. Let's try this.
School!
School!
Go!
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let us rise for the yellow horn!
It's been a while since I've heard that. It's always good to bring it in.
Of course.
So, if I had a nickel for every time this spring that we've covered something involving an adult needing to find themselves by being a kid again, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot.
It's weird that it happened twice.
Yeah. And it's not like I planned on this kind of thing. Remember, it's all determined by the wheel.
A wheel of morality, or in this case, our wheel of choices.
Mm-hmm.
You could almost call me the walker of the wheel. What? No Shiva references, Monk? That's a cold shoulder.
Ah!
Yes.
No!
Let's combine Hinduism and Final Fantasy. Oh wait, too late.
I hate you so much. It literally gives me energy. Energy that I use to write letters to orphans, in which I make fun of them for being orphans.
I understood that reference.
But, yes, this is one... Now, granted, last time it was real life, and for that one we were delving into someone revisiting essentially their childhood to be able to better find themselves.
Well, more their teenagehood. It was the last year of high school.
Yeah. And to curtail the NEET problem, and with a subtext about Japanese workplace bullying, which we covered last month. This time around, it's more of a murder mystery, and I love me a good mystery story. It also involves one of our other favorite things to either applaud or make fun of, and that is time travel. Because in the words of Some Call Me Johnny, time travel is bullshit.
Dude, you could have just given me a second. I have that button.
And by the way, that's...
Wrong button, wrong button. Fuck! Never without a
Never
botch,
with a
ladies and
botch.
gentlemen. I could have sworn I had that button. Where's my time travel's bullshit button? Well, fuck me. I think I lost that one.
I'll just use the Kevin Owens button instead.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually pisses me off because I could have sworn I had that button somewhere. Oh well.
Yep.
Yeah.
But moving right along, sadness. The reason why we keep poking fun at time travel is, with very rare exception, a lot of time travel stories end up being a mess of paradoxes and contradictions that they fall under their own weight. Even stories that we like.
Yeah.
I know it's tempting to say, well, Back to the Future was a good set of movies that involved time travel. Yeah, but for every Back to the Future, you have you have a few Kamen Rider Denos. Yes, I liked it. I like Deno, but I'm not going to pretend to defend the time travel in that story.
No.
Like the high watermark for me when it comes to time travel has always been the 2004 indie film Primer. And the reason for that is it's a very grounded affair. Of course, then there's the time travel stories that you're not meant to be taken seriously, like, say, when the player haters discovered a time machine. And the first thing they do is hate on and then beat up Hitler, as you do. But for this one, Erased. This is a case of doing time travel, but doing time travel in a different way. If anything, it's more like regressing into the past, or doing something akin to the Animus system in the better Assassin's Creed games. So, the first 3.
Yeah. Before it went to shit.
First 4 Monk Brotherhood counts as well, but we don't count AC3.
We won't. And we've already gone into why. But
Yep, that's old.
now, I will note that Erased has had multiple adaptations. I believe the earliest form that it took, when it was known as Bokumachi.
Bokudake ga inai machi.
Or The Town Where Only I Am Missing. The
Town
earliest
I don't exist in.
Yeah. The earliest version was an 8-volume manga back in 2012.
Yep.
Then a few years later, it would be made into a light. There would be a light novel called Another Record in 2015. In 2017 there was a live-action TV drama, and in in 2016 there was a live-action version. And
Live-action movie, yeah.
And truth be told, this is one of those stories where you could pull it off in live action. As we talked about years ago on the Geek Watch podcast, a lot of the times the reasons why live action anime end up failing is because they choose the wrong anime.
Yeah, a lot of anime, especially a lot of shonen anime and action anime, tend to have to rely on a lot of CG to carry it. And when it gets too CG heavy, it can start looking ridiculous. Hi, Full Metal Alchemist. How the fuck are you doing?
Especially when you're trying to do that on a non-Hollywood budget.
Yeah, it ends up being a problem. But stuff that's more grounded in reality, especially a lot of more drama and a lot more realistic anime, tend to be a lot easier because you don't need all that CG. I mean, here for a race, the most CG you would probably need is during the actual time travel sequence, which is quick, it's simple, it doesn't really interfere with anything, you can easily pull it off. Everything else is easily applicable in live action. Everything else is just simple actors being actors, acting out scenes.
Yeah. And of course, in 2016, we had its anime adaptation, which once again, and because of where it was aired, once again, we have to deal with a familiar name, Noitamina, because this was a Noitamina anime.
Yep.
And I don't remember if you were there when we talked about Tatami Galaxy or Kaiba, but John, are you familiar with Noitamina?
Not really.
Noitamina is a kind of art house block of anime on Fuji TV, and of course the name is a case of Japanese wordplay because it's just animation spelled backwards. A lot of the anime that premiered there tend to have a certain sting when their episodes start, and sometimes when looking at the subs, that kind of thing carries over, which is how a lot of Westerners became aware of Noitamina as a block.
So it's in a similar vein, but not exactly the same as it would be like the Japanese version of Toonami.
In a sense, I think there's one that is a slightly better fit, but we'll go with that because there isn't really a equivalent.
Yeah,
The closest
like it's similar, but not exactly the same.
The closest I can think of is those Ghibli nights on Turner Classic Movies when I was in high school, but that's a whole other story. Now, as far as who was involved with the animation, that was A1 Pictures, whose record speaks for itself, I'd say. The director is Tomohiko Ito.
Which we've run into before already on the Parliament. He was also the director for Fugo Keiji Balance Unlimited.
Mm-hmm. He's also the director for 2 seasons of Sword Art Online, but I'm not going to hold that against him. He was also responsible for Silver Spoon, which was done by Hiromi Arakawa of Full Metal Alchemist fame, and of course has a cow on the cover because Arakawa views herself as a cow. Don't ask why, nobody knows.
I mean, maybe if we saw a picture of her, it might explain things.
The closest explanation I've gotten is that she grew up on a dairy farm, which was
that
brought
makes
up as an
sense.
explanation for why there's that running gag in FMA about Ed really, really hating milk.
That'd explain why she'd do that.
But you look at a lot of mangaka and they'll have that kind of gag of representing themselves with something that looks nothing like them.
Yeah.
The guy behind Gintama represents himself as a monkey. No one knows why.
The only man who represents himself as himself in his works is Nabeshin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even if he keeps giving me shit for being too tall.
But then again, Nabishin is such an outlandish, over-the-top person in his real-life persona. Having him put himself in his anime just makes too much fucking sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he dresses exactly as he appears in Excel Saga.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Yeah, if you've ever seen Nabishin in any anime, that is how he looks in real life. That is not an exaggeration.
Mm-hmm.
The afro, the outlandishly garish suit, all of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But another project that Ito's been involved with, all the way, in fact, one of the first ones he was involved with was Occult Academy back in 2010.
Yep.
There was also there was also the 2019 film Hello World, which I'm told is really damn good, but I have not seen it.
Sam.
And those are just the bigger entries. There's a lot of storyboard and episode director credits, including setting production for a few episodes for XTV, and assistant director for Summer Wars, which is a pretty good film. A few storyboard and one episode director credits for Nier Automata version 1.1a,
Which is actually a really nice, sort of, but not actual adaptation of the game.
Yeah.
Especially the end slates for that being each one of the fucking bad endings of the game.
The thing that's tricky when it comes to credits with anime staffers is that you'll see a lot of, oh, they did a storyboard for 1 or 2 episodes, or oh, they did a director job for 1 episode or 2 episodes, all over the place. I know this is something that has been a recurring thing with us, but it's gonna keep happening. The writer for the anime was Taku Kishimoto.
Once again, someone we've run into with the Millionaire Detective Balance Unlimited.
And this writer has a ton of big name credits to their name, like a lot of big anime they've had a hand in. You're talking stuff like Haikyuu, you've got Joker Game, Maji, Adventure of Sinbad, the Fruits Basket remake, the 2019 version.
Moriarty the Patriot.
Moriarty the Patriot, yeah. Ranking of Kings, like some big freaking names. Attached.
But he's also worked alongside our director here, Tomohiko Ito, on Silver Spoon and Fugo Keiji, as well as Erased. So they worked together before.
Apparently, Kishimoto had cut his teeth working under Studio Ghibli before he set off on his own.
That's some pretty prestigious work then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I need to bring special attention to our composer for the series.
Oh yeah.
That being the fantastic Yuki Kajiura.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she needs introduction, but
I really don't know if she does, considering she's right. Like, if you have your Mount Rushmore of anime composers, she is undoubtedly on that mountain.
Along with Sawano.
Yeah.
Sawano, Yuki Kajiura, who would be your other
Yoko
two?
Kanno.
Yeah,
Yoko Kanno.
Definitely.
And I was gonna say Ichiro Mizuki, but he's more of theme songs.
Yeah.
There's someone more recently who's been popping up everywhere, but I forget their name.
But for those who may not be as familiar as the rest of us are of her works, let's just go Dot Hack Sign and Dot Hack Liminality. Let's go with My Hime and My Otome, Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle, Pandora Hearts, Madoka Magica, Fate Zero, Demon Slayer. I don't think I need to keep going.
You could have just said Dot Hack, and you would have just had to end it there.
Monk,
and she also did music for Sword Art Online, but once again, we won't hold that against her. Her music was one of the saving graces of that anime.
Mm-hmm.
And Monk, stopping at Dot Hack is not enough. There is no kill like overkill.
Fair. But getting into the heart of the matter. Also, I should also note that apparently there was a live action series on Netflix in December 2017. I have not seen it. I have no plans to see it because with rare exception, I'm generally not all that interested in live action versions of anime because that's why I watch anime. Like I've never gotten this idea that something animated would be all the better in live action. Because history has shown that's not exactly the case.
Very few exceptions. Also, we should make... I do also want to point out another popular band composing the theme song, Asian Kung Fu Generation.
Yep. Who's an outright machine when it comes to bangers. But...
yeah, Riri was good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd say... When it comes to the story, it largely centers around the journey of Satoru Fujinuma, and especially since once again we have a case where we have an urban setting that is not Tokyo for once, again, this time it's further north, up in Hokkaido. And I know that's a minor thing to bring up, but with so many anime that want to do an urban setting and have it be in one of the areas in the Tokyo ward, it's nice to see a little bit of variety. You know, it's the same as why a lot of people roll their eyes at the thought of a TV show taking place in New York City.
Because it's like, who hasn't done a story in New York City? What hasn't been done in New York?
Well, granted, with certain
that's
comic
something
book
different.
characters, you kind of have to. Like, I can't see anyone doing Spider-Man any place other than Manhattan. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
Well, and let's be perfectly honest here. We actually have a two-pronged urban setting here. We'll get more into why that is, but part of it is in a more rural town of Hokkaido. The other is in Chiba, one of the greater Tokyo metropolitan area parts of, well, that entire parts of Kanto. And as I explained with the map when we watched the first episode, when found out he was in Chiba, I'm like, it's technically not Tokyo because it's technically not one of the like Tokyo City, but it's part of the greater Tokyo Metro, and it's not one of the 23 wards. And then we looked at the greater Tokyo Metro and how it takes up 90% of Kanto region.
Yeah, the districting in parts of Japan is interesting.
Chiba is Chiba, but it's still Tokyo Metro. So
Then
a train from Tokyo to Chiba is like a few minutes.
I guess I could liken it to how where I am, it's still considered the Twin Cities, even to the point of getting autocorrects where some services think I'm still in Minneapolis. I haven't been in Minneapolis in about 25 years.
And you're like, what, 20 miles outside?
Yeah, but it's still considered part of the Twin Cities, quote unquote.
Yeah, the Twin Cities greater metro area. Exactly.
I'm pretty sure where you are, John, there's a similar kind of thing where the bigger city is where you are is considered a part of that.
We've got more of a tri-county area where we're at.
But districting is weird.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Let's get back on the rails here and talk about what makes Satoru unique. And if you don't mind, I'd like to take this part, Monk.
Go right ahead.
Now, the key thing with Satoru is that he's not just your ordinary teenager, or he's not just your ordinary adult at this point. He's a struggling mangaka, and as we find out through the events of the story, there's a reason for all of that, for him to be struggling and having such a hard time. But he has a unique ability called Revival. Whenever he witnesses a life-threatening incident of any kind, shown off in the example of someone on a bicycle getting hit by a truck, he is able to jump back within a short period of time before that event in order to change that, to prevent that event from occurring. Now, normally, that would only be like usually a few minutes. It's not usually a very far back. I think it's like 15 minutes tops, usually.
Up
Something
until that
like
point, yeah, it was 15 minutes tops.
Yeah. However, when his life suddenly goes to hell, when a noted serial killer basically goes to his home and wrecks his shit, and I believe kills his mom.
Yes.
Yep.
And then he gets blamed for it on top of everything else. He goes on the run, and his revival suddenly kicks into overdrive, sending him all the way back to when he was a young boy in elementary school.
He was 10 years old, 1988, just before his birthday in February. His birthday was March 2nd.
And now he has to discover he has to basically solve the mystery of who this serial killer is, because obviously it has a connection to his own past. And he needs to figure that out so he can change the future for the better.
Yeah. There is a large amount of setup in the first few episodes that leads to this. We first see him going around his part-time job and preventing a kid getting hit by a box truck where the guy had died of a heart attack, but it also landed him in the hospital for 2 days, basically unconscious. At that time, that's when his mother came down from Hokkaido to Chiba to take care of him.
And there's a bit of a running gag with his mother, and the fact that she seems to be one
Yokai
step ahead of him at certain things, or understand or knows exactly what he's thinking, even if he doesn't say it, and he keeps calling her a yokai as a result. The translation refers to it as demon, and I've gone over that pet peeve of mine. Yokai are not demons in that sense.
We've gone over a lot of things about the difference between yokai oni and akuma, but we won't harp on that again here. Part of the thing is that now that his mom is here and he goes doing stuff with her, he has another revival, and he suddenly tells his mom, "Do you see anything wrong? I feel like there's something wrong." And he doesn't know why the revival is, but his mom notices a guy wearing a hat walking with a girl with an ice cream. And then they go to a minivan, but when the minivan pulls away, the girl with the ice cream is still left outside the minivan.
Mm-hmm.
And she believes that a kidnapping was just stopped. This leads to a series of conversations where it's revealed that when Satoru was very young, in elementary school, one of the adults who was his friend, a guy named Jun Shiratori, who ran a food delivery company with his father, was arrested for the abduction and murder of 3 children from his town, 2 of which were his classmates, 1 of which was his friends. And he insisted it couldn't be Jun, who they all called Yuki because he talked about courage all the time. This also gets his mother, Sachiko, thinking that maybe he's been right all along and she should have listened to him more, but also that she may have been made, which is why she tried to tell her reporter friend about it. And then, well, the serial killer shows up at Satoru's apartment, which his mother, being accustomed to Hokkaido, left unlocked, and gets her murdered.
Mm-hmm.
This starts the chase. This gets him sent back to 1988 in front of his own elementary school, where he's forgotten so much because they intentionally tried to repress his memories so he wouldn't remember such horrible things. Mm. And he remembers that the first person abducted was abducted before she was 11. She was 10. And that was Hinazuki Kayo. So he had to do things to try and help her. And he thought that maybe it turned out to be her mom because she's been abused at home. And so he tried to help her with that. He also tried to find out her birthday because he turned in at late February, and he's like, it's got to be before she turned 10 sometime in March. And then he finds out her birthday is the same day his is, March 2nd, and so he's like, shit, I've only got 1 day, because he finds out on February 29th.
One other thing that he kind of exposes during this time is he has a bad habit of saying exactly what he's thinking.
Only when he's a kid, for the most part. He does it once when he's an adult, but it's always as a kid that we see it. That he says something he meant to just think.
Mm-hmm. And it does become one of his 2 running gags. The other one being people asking him, "Are you stupid?"
Well, I think it's only 2 people who ask him who he's stupid, and those are Kayo and his coworker in the present, Aidi. Baka nano. But this also leads Satoru to start reconnecting with his friends from his childhood. And it is through the connections he slowly rebuilds and the new connections he builds that he thinks he saves Hinazuki from her mother's abuse, only for Hinazuki to still go missing the day after their birthday. And then his friend Hiromi, and then the girl from the other elementary school, Aya. And nothing has changed. And then he gets shunted back to the future, back to his own body. And
has to deal with being on the run.
Yeah.
But there is one person who kind of ends up acting like a conscience to him in the current time. That being Airi.
Not so much a conscience as a as an ally. Like first his manager tries to help him, but his manager, of course, is only doing what he thinks is right and turning him into the cops. It's also through this that because he grabbed a piece of paper that was next to his mother's body, he got a phone number that will become useful later. But after the manager tries to sell him out, Airi finds him and takes him to her house, where her guardians, as we find out, they aren't her family, they're just people she's living with, her uncle specifically and his family, says, hey, hide here, hang out. I know that someone like you would never kill your own mother. I believe in you. And he's like, why? And she's like, because when I wanted somebody to believe in me, it didn't happen. So I wanted to know what it would be like to believe in somebody who needs somebody to believe in them. Kind of its own quandary. Everybody knows the classic line, don't believe in yourself, believe in me who believes in you. Yes, John, I am going to invoke it.
You know what? It fits, and I'm going to let you have that one.
But here she said, she not only said, I wanted to know what it felt like to believe in someone who needed to be believed in, but she felt the need to believe in him anyway. And while she's off doing her work as she's supposed to, he uses the phone number to call a reporter, which we briefly see in the past as one of his mother's ex-coworkers, because she used to be an investigative journalist before she had to be a single mother with Satoru after his father left. And he talks to this reporter, and the reporter's like, yeah, we never really believed Jun Shiratori or any of these other individuals who seem to be under the same MO, people who abducted a few children, they ended up dead, and they continue to swear their innocence. And he has this list of all these cases that have occurred over the years. And he said he came to the conclusion, this has to be someone fairly high up in the political power structure, because they have the ability to pretty easily frame people as the murderers and not himself. And Satoru goes through the files, looks at the list of suspects, and goes, wait a minute. This is the final list of suspects that was created after Hiromi was killed. And the cops believed that, Hiromi was killed because as a child he looked so effeminate that someone mistook him for a kid. And Satoru comes to the conclusion, no, this person actually knew Hiromi because they knew he looked like a girl and they killed him to throw off the trail. Mm-hmm. And so he looks up the list of previous people who were on the list of suspects, and his mom's name is on there, along with some other names we don't get to see because they're off the bottom of the screen. But at that point, we see that Airi is now in her house and it's burning and there's been a text sent to her phone from Satoru's mom's phone, which was stolen by the serial killer, with Satoru's name on it to try and frame him as the person burning her up. Mm-hmm. But he goes and he saves her, along with the help of the manager, and he tries to get away and gets to the bridge where he was first met by Airi a while ago. But then the police show up and arrest him. And as they arrest him, he notices a guy kind of smirking underneath an umbrella. And it is at that point he's like, things aren't over. It's time to go back again. And he forces himself back into his childhood self.
Into his past, yeah.
Yeah. Just a few days before his birthday again. And this time he's going to do things right. He does things to take... he basically says, I don't know what the best move here is, but he recruits his friend Kenya. Kenya wants to help. And hides Kaio away on an old bus that was used as a clubhouse for a hockey team. And eventually gets Hiromi involved there as well. But someone eventually comes onto the bus and kicks some boxes in frustration before letting out a backpack. When they check the backpack and the boxes, they're all like, this stuff is kind of weird, and only Satoru is like, this is murder shit. What the fuck? Because it's rope and a spray bottle, and it was described that the way Kaio could have been killed was being tied up, taken to an industrial freezer, and sprayed with a spray bottle to bring her temperature down to the point where she freezes to death.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get out of the bus and move her to his house. He's like, I don't know anywhere else to go. We're going to go to my house. And his mom's like, I was expecting you to come here earlier. And he's like, and he's thinking to himself in relief that he's so relieved. And then he says out loud with his thoughts at one point, I thought you were going to yell at me first, though. And she's like, why would I yell at you when you're doing the right thing? So Kaio gets to stay there and experience the love of a real family. And they use Kaio to bait Kaio's mother out to try and get her in contact with what is the equivalent of Japanese child protective services. Mm-hmm. And when they do, they even have the help of the teacher, their homeroom teacher, Yashiro Gaku, this really cool guy who kind of bumbly, but tries to say and do the right thing, has been trying to help all along, to get Kaio out of an abusive relationship. And he helps to bring CPS out when Kaio's mom is finally out so that they can talk to her. But he also brings Kaio's grandmother, her mom's mother. And they have a short reconciliation before Kaio goes to live with her grandmother, where she'll be safe. And it's at this point that Kenya thinks playing detective is over, until he notices that Satoru is still trying to keep Hiromi and Aya from being alone. He's like, are you saying playing detective isn't over? And Satoru's response is, I don't know if you'll believe me, but I think this is a serial killer. And Kenny's like, I'm glad you had enough faith in me to tell me that, because I will believe you. So it's the second time someone's believed him just on faith alone. Mm-hmm. And so he keeping eyes on Hiromi is easy. Hiromi's his friend. He knows to go to like the youth center after school. They go to their hideout and stuff. But the other girl, Aya, is from a different school. So he's first sneaking around trying to get a feel for her routine. But then his mom sees him. It's like, help me with the groceries. And then Yashiro's driving by. He's like, oh, I'll drive you guys home. Those look heavy. And as they're driving home, Yashiro and Satoru are talking about, how would you get closer to a girl that you really like? And Yashiro's like, well, first you talk with her, and then you establish, things you have in common. And Satoru sees a plastic bag sticking out of the glove box of his car and opens it, and a bunch of candy falls out.
He's like,
and Yashiro,
you caught me. You caught me.
Yashiro's like, oh man, you caught me. I have had a sick sweet tooth ever since I stopped smoking 3 years ago, because I needed something to occupy my mouth, and now that I eat these candies, now I'm kind of addicted to them. You're my co-conspirator. Have a candy. And then his mom wakes up in the back in the back and says, "Give me one too." But with Kenya's help and Hiromi's help, they just go and introduce themselves to Aya, who thinks they're kind of weird. And Kazu kind of likes her, but she thinks they're all kind of weird and thinks that a hideout is stupid boy stuff and childish. And then she goes and sees them in the hideout the next day. And they hang out, and he's making sure that nothing's going to happen to them. Mm-hmm. But then he notices that another girl that he got in a conflict with while he was still trying to help Kaio, because the girl accused Kaio of stealing the lunch money from all the kids. Her name was Misato. Yeah, Misato Yanagihara. Misato has been alone ever since then. People have been shunning her. And as I've talked about with bullying in Japan before, bullying in Japan is not nearly as physical or overt as it is in the U.S. Bullying in Japan, people call you names, make fun of you, physically assault you. Throwing people in lockers is physical assault for anyone who doesn't understand that. Things of that nature. And in Japan, it's more about ostracization. If you're being bullied, people just won't associate with you. That's due to the group dynamic of Japan and how bullying works there. Mm-hmm. If you're not a part of the group, you're automatically somehow bad. And so now he's worried that, since Aya is never alone and Hiromi is never alone, but Misato might be in danger. So now he's trying to help Misato. And Misato's going to the gym to watch the hockey players play hockey all the time. And so at one point, the guys are all leaving. They're like, hey, you going to come hang out with us at the youth center or the hideout? And he's like, nah, I got to go make sure Misato, I'm going to go to the gym because he's asked them about where Misato is. And they're like, okay, well, see you later. And he says, see you later very vehemently. And they're like, why does he always say it like that? It's not like we won't see him tomorrow. So he goes to the gym. Mm-hmm. He sees Misato. Misato eventually goes to the bathroom. And he goes to wait for her. But she doesn't show up for quite a few minutes. And he's worried. And then Yashiro shows up and he's like, what are you here for? He's like, I want to talk to Misato. And he's like, you've been worried because she's been ostracized. I don't know where she went. She hasn't been through here in a while. And shows him out the back door behind the bathrooms. And then he sees a truck pulling away saying Shiritori Foods. And, he's like, what? No, it couldn't have been June. Could it? And he asks Yashiro to take him to after the truck. And he gets in the car with Yashiro. The seatbelt has some trouble, but they get it in just fine. And they keep going, chasing the truck. And Yashiro starts talking about how this is the best moment for him because he's finally going to get something he wanted. Because Satoru talked about how he was playing detective with his friends, but he doesn't really think of it as playing detective because he thinks there's a serial killer and he's trying to stop them from killing people. And Yashiro, then he opens up the because Yashiro's tapping the steering wheel, he opens up the glove box to get his candy. Mm-hmm. And there's just a box of laxatives in it. It's like, where's the candy? He's like, there wouldn't be any candy in there. This isn't my car. And the look of horror on Satoru's face was the best thing ever.
Realizing not only has he as the person who's been along for the ride for the whole time, the culprit, but he's in the same car. He's in the same car with him. It becomes very claustrophobic.
Yeah.
That moment, that final piece of the puzzle clicks into place, and he finally realizes what the truth is, and now realizing he just put himself in the worst place he could possibly be right now.
Well, and it's really funny because there were so many clues, and the biggest one was just before he admitted they were playing detective, when he said a line that sounded very close to something that Yashiro said, I planned on mentioning stuff like that at the graduation ceremony at the end of the year, if I ever got to teach 6th grade. And so after all the reveal happens, he's like, I'd been wondering how you were getting ahead of me, how you saved Kaio, how you kept Aya away, all these things. I'd been wondering who was ahead of me. And he said, and then that day when I saw you following Aya, I knew you were the one stopping me. And now I needed to know how you knew. It's like you were reading my mind. Don't worry, there's nobody else in that truck ahead of us besides Jun Shiratori's dad. No. You see, I have a special plan for you. And he takes him to the edge of a river. Satoru is trying to yank out the seatbelt, but there was difficulty putting it in because, well, Yashiro had jury rigged it so it couldn't be undone. And he puts a basketball on the clutch of the car so that it'll roll in on its own. At least I think it was the clutch. Might have been the accelerator. I'd have to watch that part again. But he puts the basketball on one of the pedals so that it just rolls into this river in the middle of winter in Hokkaido, with the windows down. And as it goes into the river and it's starting to fill up the car, and Satoru is both freezing and drowning, he screams out, "Yashiro, I know what your future holds!" And then his revival process, which is shown as this giant nest of movie reels.
Foam strips, yeah.
Yeah. Freezes up and splits apart. That was an intense moment in the entire show.
And the third act involves him slowly trying to recover his memories, because for everyone else, he's been in a coma for over
15 years.
Yeah, 15 years.
It's 3 years before the start point of the show. He was 29 when he sent himself back to being 10 and then 11 after his birthday. And now 15 years later in 2003, he finally wakes up and is trying to regain his memories and also his life.
And the sole reason he wasn't as atrophied as he could have been is because of the fact that his mother was constantly doing physical therapy on him while he was in his coma.
She would stretch his muscles. She would use muscle stimulating machines. She would constantly move him so he didn't get bed sores. His mother took a part-time job to support him. It's a very poignant moment to see how lost she looks, considering that in every part of the show that we've seen her in, both in the 29-year-old world when she realizes that the real killer may be still there and she gets killed, and in the past, she has been vivacious, full of life. But she's just lost without her son.
Mm-hmm.
But when he finally revives, she takes him to a hospital. He starts going through physical therapy. He meets a little girl named Kumi who is suffering from leukemia, who watches him do physical therapy. And eventually, Yashiro visits him and sees him, but he doesn't have any of his memories back yet. And Yashiro just seems like the kind Yashiro who was a stand-in for his father in his mind. But there are also certain discrepancies he notices. Like, he's never seen the word heisei, so how does he know it? How can he draw the way he draws? There's a lot of things that don't make sense to him, because he doesn't even remember that he used a revival to go back to being a child in the first place. And then his friends, now adults, start visiting him. Kenya and Hiromi have both become very reputable people. Kenya has become a lawyer. Hiromi's become a doctor. Hiromi married Kaio, and they have a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And when Kaio comes to visit and talks to him, everything comes back. But he fakes that it hasn't yet. He just starts doing even more physical therapy and getting better at everything so that he can reclaim his life. And then he talks to Kumi at one point and tells her, "I've been trying my hardest to look cool for you so you won't be scared and you can go through and try and live your life." Because she has to go through a full body radiation to kill her bone marrow and then a bone marrow transplant.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the more drastic but also more effective methods of getting rid of most forms of leukemia.
Yeah.
But as she's going in for her procedure, he meets up with Yashiro again, asks if he can talk to Yashiro for a while. Yashiro takes him up a freight elevator, tapping on his wheelchair like he did the wheel of the car, and takes him out onto the roof. And the confrontation begins. Satoru goes, "I have my memories." Yashiro goes, "That's fine. I'm framing you for Kumi's death. There are too many muscle relaxants in her in her IV, and she'll die on the table, but she'll also have sent you a text to your phone saying, "Thank you for giving me what I wished for." And Satoru's like, "Oh, and I suppose in my grief and guilt, I'll jump off the roof and die." And Yashido's like, "Yes. But I still need to know, how did you know what I was going to do?" And Satoru first fucks with him about it for a little while, before basically giving it to him straight that he came from the future. But Yashido doesn't believe him.
I mean, how do you believe something like that? Like, wait, you went back in time? How the fuck did you do that?
No. Mm-hmm. And then, in a stroke of motherfucking Machiavellian genius, Satoru starts going, "Do you know why you couldn't kill me over all those years? You need me. Without me, you don't find it worth living." And so he goes to put his wheelchair over the roof and throw himself off, and Yashido panics and grabs the fucking wheelchair to try and prevent him from falling. He's like, "See, you can't live without me." And then Yashido, because he's only holding onto the wheelchair with one hand, eventually it slips out, and he hears the crashing of the wheelchair below, and he's like, "Yep, it's over. It's over for me." So he stands at the edge of the building, about ready to throw himself off, looks down, and sees that Satoru has been caught in one of the crisis
crash pads. Yeah.
Yep. And all of his friends are there. Because at the beginning of the confrontation, he predicted, "Hey, you have your phone open and talking to your friends so that you can get a confession out of me for anything more recent than that time 15 years ago, since the statute has passed." But no, snaps his phone. Instead, they get him on attempted murder of Satoru because they all witnessed it. But Yashido, before he's finally taken down and taken to the cops, he looks over in his reflection in a puddle and sees a spider's thread hanging from his head snap. And this relates to a small story he said at the beginning of the third arc, where he talked about the spider's thread allegory in Buddhism. I'm not going to go over that. That's something y'all can look up. And how ever since he had to take care of multiple hamsters and watched all but one of them drown in a bottle of water he put them all in, because that one stood on the back of the dead bodies of the others, he could see threads over the heads of people, and they were the people that he was destined to kill.
Which I brought up that we saw a similar pattern with the halos when it came to Cutthroat in Akudama Drive.
Yeah, he'd see red halos around people he was supposed to kill. You couldn't remember that his name was Cutthroat and the game show was Akudama Drive. I'm like, I remember that. I had to remind us all of those things. Mm-hmm. But with that, Yashido is caught, everybody is saved, and we get a small epilogue of Satoru becoming a successful mangaka, because now he knows how to reach into his emotions again, because they haven't been blocked off. All of his friends are successful too.
Yeah. There was the big one of the big things early on was he was criticized that his manga attempts were closed off.
That he didn't put enough of himself in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And after this whole ordeal, not only is the manga that he's putting out successful, it apparently has an anime adaptation.
Yeah, it had an anime adaptation going. And he did originally open his manga office in Hokkaido, but moved it back to Chiba at one point. And he goes out of the office, and walks around Chiba in the winter, because it's cold. It's starting to snow. His jacket as an adult is the same goddamn style of jacket as a kid, so that we have that juxtaposition. Mm-hmm. And he finds the bridge that he hid under while he was running, and just kind of stands there looking around for a bit. Mm-hmm. But then he sees someone taking pictures, and it's Airi, and she comes to meet him, and he is, for a moment, overwhelmed with emotion, but then happy to meet her. Of course, it is now 2010 by this point, so we're now 4 years past the start point. At the start point, Airi was 16. She is now 20, the age of majority in Japan. So there's a small implication there that a romance may start between them.
Yeah.
But
Now I should note.
I
should note something. Sorry, go ahead.
I was about to note that this is the anime ending.
You beat me to it. You beat me to it, fucker.
The anime ending was criticized at the time because the ending of the manga hadn't come out yet. After all, the manga finished technically in March 4th of 2016, but the last episode of the anime, while it aired in March 25th, it was obviously written and everything well before that. The ending in the anime is according to the fans of the manga, truncated and lacking in depth. But the argument that I made when we were talking about this as the ending was running was, sometimes you don't need the depth and layering that a manga provides for an ending in an anime. That can just feel like padded runtime.
And
Yeah, right.
Now, the biggest differences besides it lacking depth are that the entire confrontation with Yashido takes place someplace different. And also, instead of meeting Kaio and getting his memories back, he also meets Airi again. And that's when he gets his memories back. And then, of course, a bunch of him and his friends think of a way to protect Kumi from Yashido. Again, the plot is to frame Satoru for Kumi's murder in the hospital. But they decide to go on, I guess, I haven't read it in a while, I can't quite remember. They're on some sort of outing where there's a bridge over a lake. And they confront each other on this bridge, and Yashido sets the bridge on fire, willing to accept that he's going to die with Satoru. But Satoru grabs him and jumps off the bridge. And then we get a bunch of really detailed epilogues for all of the characters. The same spirit of those epilogues is carried in the anime with the small 7.5-minute segment we get after the confrontation with Yashido. It's still that same feeling of, you see the people, you see their happy lives, you see how far they've come, you see how Satoru has come back into their life, you see how everyone's become more successful, you see how after everything he's done, he can finally see smiles on the faces of the people he loves. And then, of course, the meeting with Airi at the very end, that's very serendipitous. That was also a really emotional, impactful moment. And then we cut to the title card, and that was the end of the episode.
Yeah, it is slightly different from the manga, but it still carried the spirit of what the manga was going to tell. It still has a similar resolution. It still has a similar epilogue. It still carries the feel of, yes, because of his actions, because of his willingness to go back and change the past, he didn't just save their lives, he helped them live.
There's a difference between being alive and living. This is true.
Yes.
Well,
That's
there's a
the feeling you
difference.
get. Yeah.
The biggest thing there is that the differences in the ending, while it's mostly detail differences, obviously the spirit is kept the same. And yeah, Cure has it perfectly. Not only did he help save their lives and help them live, he made their lives better. He made everyone's lives better, including his own. Same brain, John. Same brain.
Indeed.
And I think personally that both the manga and the adaptation have their places. That they both have fantastic writing, fantastic storytelling. The anime has wonderful cinematography, and also that the endings, while they may have differed, both still perfectly set out to do what they meant to do. It's true that as a 12-episode single core anime, there was always going to be truncation in details, and because the manga was not yet finished when they started, writing and developing, there was always going to be that those discrepancies. And like I said, the biggest criticisms from the manga lovers to the anime ending is it feels rushed, it feels empty, and it's not the same. And I'm like, it doesn't really feel that rushed. The confrontation's paced out perfectly. The epilogue is one of those anime. I mean, the epilogue there feels the same as the epilogue to Real Life did. And if we're going to make the comparison, because we have to, since Real Life is the same, is a similar premise as we mentioned at the beginning of all this.
This is a little darker.
This is a lot of darker, but yeah. The epilogue did not overstay its welcome. That's the important part. If you had tried to carry on with the epilogues from the manga, they would have needed at least 3 more episodes, and it would have felt like it was dragging.
Yeah, it really would have.
Even just having an entire episode for just the epilogue would have been too much.
Yeah. And that's due to the nature of Erased. Now, there are plenty of slice of life stories, even some shonen stories, where having an epilogue episode or 2 feels appropriate. This is not one of those.
No.
This is absolutely not one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is an anime that had a set story, and in that last episode, that story concludes, and you see the aftermath. That's all you need. The story is done.
It really
Going
is.
any longer would just feel like padding.
I think a lot of people have gotten used to this idea of a adaptation being 100% like the source material. Even though when you're dealing with certain manga, trying to play it 100% straight is actually the worst thing you can do. And the big example I always point to is Blame. Blame does not belong in an anime.
No.
Especially not a CG heavy one, but still, it's so much of Blame is atmospheric, and trying to do heavy amounts of atmosphere works in a manga because you can go at your own pace. You don't have that luxury with animation.
And if you grew up in the early 2000s, like a lot of us did, and remember the days where anime-only versions really went off script, truncated a shit ton of stuff, and just completely fucked everything over, trust me, by comparison, Erased does it really damn good.
I mean, that's why we have Hellsing TV and Hellsing Ultimate, or Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Mm-hmm. We even talked about this with the episode The Brotherhood Effect.
It's also Sailor Moon and Sailor Moon Crystal and
we're yeah. Let's not go there.
Yeah, I know.
But the story ending with that particular, I understand the desire to want to see the source material portrayed as accurately as the book that you read. However, the phrase that comes to mind here is "pick your battles."
Yes.
Well, and like I said, the big thing is development of the anime started before the manga was finished, so they couldn't have been accurate to the ending. Now, if the anime had started development after the manga was finished, they could still, and I'm saying this out loud, they could have still done the ending the way the manga shows it, and still done the epilogue the way the anime shows it. You would not have needed all the epilogue chapters faithfully recreated. You could have done it in the same montage we got at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I agree.
Although, if people are gonna be that kind of stickler, then I hope I don't see a copy of Akira in your video library, because that'd be real awkward.
Akira, half done, movie gets made, has its own ending. Akira manga takes some ideas from the movie, finishes the manga. I love Akira's story. Which one? Yes.
That's not too. I'm obviously not slagging Akira. That'd be otaku's suicide for me to do that. but it's more of, if people are going to be making this argument of sticking to the source material 100% of the time, and they have Akira as part of their classics list, I'm going to have to call that shit out.
Yep. No, I don't think any of us could slag Akira, Monk. There might be people who Akira is just not their speed, and they'll be like, I can see why people like it. It doesn't fit me. But anyone who legitimately disses on Akira, I'm going to call you what you are. You're performative cynics. Suck it up. Get out of my face. But, now, there is one thing I really want to note here, and that's that the vocal talent for Satoru as an adult, Shinosuke Mitsushima, is not generally a big voice actor for anime. The two large projects I can see he worked on when it came to TV anime were Erased and Nyanbo.
Is he more of a live action actor than a animated actor?
It seems like he does films and TV dramas mostly. For example, some of his more recent stuff from 2023 and 2024, he plays the character Sadafumi Nakano in Galapagos and Kansuke Fujimoto in Hayabusa Fire Brigade, which are both TV dramas. And when it comes to films, he has been B in the Kingdom films, in Kingdom 2 Far and Away, and Kingdom 3 The Flame of Destiny. And this year in Dear Family, he will be playing Jun Sakurada. He also does he did in the past some stage work. He did one anime film as Morio in Napping Princess. But a lot of his stuff is definitely TV and film related, rather than animation related.
I could see it.
Monk, he's younger than Satoru. He was born in 89.
Is that a case of
Hilarious.
Life imitating art?
Something like that.
Pretty much,
Good,
yeah.
But I think we've covered everything that we can cover when it comes to Erased, so I believe it is time for us to render our final judgments. I didn't hear back from Rick regarding his stance, so we're going to have to list him as abstain.
Which is fine. But, my good brothers, here in this Parliament of Geeks, I will ask you first, Brother John, since it's been a while. Be it Weeb or Scrub?
Well, can you really say it's been a while because I was in the last episode?
That
being said...
True. It just feels like a long time with you, you know?
It's because I only show up when I actually watch the show. But that being said, when I first watched Erase, I had already heard a lot of good things about the series going in. So I already had pretty decent expectations going in. I remember this show hit me emotionally throughout, especially by the end, with everything that had happened. And the fact that the ending was differed didn't bother me at all. It was a well-told story with a lot of drama, a lot of tension, a lot of suspense, and a mystery that even fooled me a couple of times throughout the series. Didn't fully fool me, but it fooled me a couple places here and there, which is what a good mystery does. You know, if you're smart enough, you can pick up the clues, but it still likes to throw in a few twists that still make sense in the long run. This series did that in spades. And with great characterizations, yeah, Satoru may be the main character, but all the cast got their time to shine and had their moments throughout. And combine that with solid animation, great art styles, amazing music, but then again, it's Yuki Kajira. You can't go wrong with that.
Oh, absolutely.
And a total package from beginning to end. To condense that into a 12 to have all that in a 12 episode anime is a rare treat. And this series absolutely gave us that and more. So for me, I could not give it any less. I dubbed this series to be weeb.
All right. Well, with one abstention and one vote of weeb and Monk making noises on his microphone. There we go. Oh, no, never mind. Monk, can you hear
Monk,
me?
whatever you're doing back there, we can hear it.
I'm gonna server beat him. Monk, it's changed from your normal microphone to your onboard microphone, and we can hear everything you're doing while walking around. Ah.
Oh,
I don't know why it keeps switching your microphones, but you know, that's a thing. It's a whole ass thing. All right. Well, moving forward. Brother Flutter, what have you got for us? Weaver. Scrub.
interesting story. While it does have the same premise overall as real life, it's through a different manner in terms of how the main character achieves like their experience of being a kid again. And granted, it's through a method that can be hit or miss, as we've touched upon. The characterization of all the characters, main or supporting, like the case of Satoru and his friends, and the people he saves, are amazing. They all get at least an episode or two of development and focus. The music, as you'd expect from Kajira, is amazing. The animation is stellar, but it's A1 Pictures. They usually deliver good animation. And the mystery is very satisfying when you find out, oh shit, it's the culprit's they throw you for a loop in terms of who the actual culprit is. It's a character you're not expecting. With that, I can't give this any higher than Weeb.
All right. Well, that's 2 counts of weeb and 1 abstention. Monk, what have you got for me?
So, I've mentioned before that I like a good mystery story, and I know we talked about how well this is doing time travel, but really, this isn't a story about time travel. This is a story about a murder mystery and the people that it affects, as well as trying to prevent it. And in that regard, we have the kind of things where we have likely suspects, unlikely suspects, red herrings, and the twists that one would expect from a proper mystery. We also have a bit of the intellectual dance, as one would expect from a mystery, even if we're not being given the full picture. Again, the whole thing of not just red herrings aren't meant to be tricks per se, but more of you had some of the information, but not all of the information, and you drew a faulty conclusion up until that point. And Erased certainly has that. We talk a lot about audio identity. That is very much present. I also like when it came to some bits in the dialogue in the past bits, it was referencing things that would have been relevant around that time. Like the season end of, I think it was Live Man?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
As well as name-dropping Dragon Quest.
Yeah, Draqua, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, things that kids of that age would be talking about around that time.
There was even the argument of grinding is boring, but grinding's the best part.
Years later, nothing's changed.
Don't remind me.
With the combination of all of those elements, I cannot give Erased any grade other than Weeb.
All right. Well, with three of weeb and 1 abstention, it comes down to me to give my particular assessment. There are many words I could say, but they've already been spoken. We've talked about the audio identity. We've talked about the music. We've talked about the characters. We've talked about the animation. We've talked about the story and its mystery. There's one thing I can say, that we haven't talked about, and that's that I need to spotlight the voice actress for Sachiko, Satoru's mother. This is none other than Takayama Minami. You may know her as Konan Edogawa from Detective Conan, or Nabiki Tendo for Ranma 1/2, or Envy from Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. She has a long and storied history within anime, and her voice acting is a gift. Her voice acting has been nothing but godly ever since I knew she existed. She's been in the hack games as Mia. She has been, as I said, all over Detective Conan since at least 97. She was Kiki in Kiki's Delivery Service in 89. And to appeal to the monk here for a second, in Vision of Escaflowne, yes, I did. You didn't think I'd bring up Escaflowne here, did you, monk? She was Delandau and Selena and Cheed.
Wearing a lot of hats, just not the face.
Yeah.
Wait, that was John's character last week.
Only 2 days ago, but hey, monk. Yes, last week is still correct. She has been everywhere in the anime scene, and whenever I hear her, it is like coming home. Mm-hmm. Which is why, when it comes to supporting characters, when it comes to characters that weren't as prominent as Satoru, Airi, Kaio, Sachiko is definitely the first one that comes to mind to me every time I think about this anime or its manga. And it has to be because of Takayama Minami. So, with that in mind, and all the other lauding laurels we've given this show, obviously my assessment is that this is weeb. And with 1 abstention and 4 votes of weeb, this parliament finds your race, also known as Bokudakegai Naimachi, to be weeb!
And
Well deserved.
Well deserved. And now that I've cleaned up some of the ones on the list that were already taken care of, which should have been cleaned up, but it looks like a couple got missed because Drifters was still on the list. I could have swore I took that out a month ago.
You took that out twice at this point, Monk.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on that front. It probably ended up saving it as a different wheel by accident.
Probably.
So, with that said, let us spin the wheel.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn.
Mazen Kaiser SKL.
Yeah! Fucking finally!
Majin Kaiser Skull! Ooh!
I feel... Is anyone hearing loudness music in the background?
No, I'm hearing boss music, and it's with me because I'm the good guy.
So...
Anybody hear Majin Kenzan in the background? I know it's not the right series for that, but Majin Kenzan is everything Majin Kaiser should be.
Yeah. But... So, tune in for that one. It is probably going to be in less amount of time than some of our usual ones, because Mazen Kaiser's Skull is pretty short.
3 episodes, yeah.
It's short enough that I could use it as an armrest. Okay, it's short enough that manga van in Escaflowne would consider it tall.
That's bad.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I never said you were telling lies. I'm just saying it's bad.
I apologize for nothing. But that is going to be the one we'll be tackling very, very soon. So until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay fucking frosty, everybody.